Hey, what's going on, everybody? We are we're a little bit early. We're a little bit live, but I was ready, so here we are. Sup? Long time no see. Again, I apologize if I'm still a little quiet. It's been a long road back. Good to see you all. We're kind of in our dark mode vibe here. But yeah, we're doing all right. As you can see, for those of you who don't know, I got sick and then I had laryngitis, real bad, and it's hard for me to talk. I also have some serious irritation from my hats, my baseball hats. I think I need to wash my hats. I'm getting like a rash, like right where the band is. Anyways, what's up, everybody? KC, what's up? Good to see you. Good to see you. It's good. It's good. I feel a lot better. One sec here. Yeah, I feel good. Also, while I wasn't streaming for the last 2 weeks, 13 days, I changed some things. A couple things got changed. So again, on the topic of the channel, stuff that you guys don't care about, but I'm on a slightly different lens than I used to use. So my lens is a little bit different than I was using before, and actually, because of the way that I'm mounted up now, I actually don't have a teleprompter anymore. I have a small, it's called a monitor, which you normally think of as like a computer monitor, but I mean like in a video monitor. And it's set up like right to the left of my lens. And it's just because of the structure of my thing. So, and of course, obviously I am no longer, well, I mean, I still have it, but right now I am not on my big RE20. Instead, I'm on my Sennheiser MKH 50, which is right there, just out of the screen. And so, yeah, again, it's not going to have that same, broadcast, but I don't have this big thing in my face, and I like that for my purposes. And yeah, different old. So I used to shoot on a 35 millimeter lens, and all right. Well, again, it doesn't really matter, but the way that my setup used to be is that I actually had a tripod at my desk, and then I had a tripod set up on the other side of my desk, and that had my camera on it and my tripod and my teleprompter, and then it had a 35 millimeter lens, which is, it's not super wide and it's not telephotic. It's pretty normal. I would say anything between 35 and 50 millimeters is fairly normal size, but it was about maybe another foot further away from me than the camera is now. I wanted to get rid of the tripod. I've been trying to move all my cables and all my connections to the ceiling so that I can get rid of stands and stuff. Because remember, not only do I live stream from this place, but in theory, I'm also running my actual plays and having guests over and stuff. So I just wanted to get everything off the floor and get rid of tripods. And, I bumped into it, tripped into it a couple dozen times. So anyways, so I mounted it to the ceiling, and because of the way of the positioning, I moved it closer. So the camera used to be about, I don't know, maybe 30 inches away from me, and now it's probably about 18 inches away from me. So the camera is actually closer to me. And at that distance, 35 millimeters is way too tight. It's like zoomed in on my face. So I had to switch to a lens that I have, which it's not a bad lens. It's not like the best lens, but I switched to a 24 millimeter prime lens. And so that's what we're looking at now. So that's a long story. But anyways, and because the camera's closer, if I had still had a teleprompter, it would have been really weird. It would have been like almost too close. And so I actually took the teleprompter off and I kind of basically moved it. But now that the camera's closer and has a wider angle thing, I can put the monitor right here. So right now I'm looking at chat. I'm looking at the chat. So chat used to be right here. Right? It used to be right in the lens. And now my chat is right there. Old, new. Old, new. But I put it on my left side of my monitor so that when I do look at chat, it looks like my eye line is looking into the chat on screen. So I did that on purpose so that when I'm looking at my chat, it looks like I'm looking at my chat. The stuff that I think about. These are the things that I think about, right? These are the things that I worry about. Let me get a little more blue. You guys, you like the blue? We like the blue. Let me get a little more blue. We could go with like a teal green. You guys like the green? Full Sith. Nice little KOLC orange. There we go. Right, go into night mode. Get rid of the blue lights. Maybe a nice little purple. Let's see here. Your night sense was tingling, Jams. So you checked, and lo and behold, Derek is live. I am live. Again, this is sort of a test for me just to see how my voice is holding up, and especially because one of my crazy actually two of my patrons contacted me, but one of them contacted me early and said, "Hey, are you going to look at, do you know what Stone Top is? Are you going to look at Stone Top? Everyone's talking about Stone Top." And I was like, "Yeah, I backed it 5 years ago or whatever when Jeremy was first running it." And I said I followed. No, I wasn't like a huge follower of it, but I mean, I knew Jeremy and the Lamp Black people from the Google Plus days and the Dungeon World days. Not like personally, I just knew them, from their works. But I it wasn't like something that was super high on my radar. Anyways, it's been so long that it wasn't on my radar. And apparently I got the PDF back in February, because that's when they sent out the digital versions for the Kickstarter. And I just didn't even notice that it got sent to me. And so I never looked at it. Anyways, so I guess Quinn's did a first look Quinn's Quest review. And so people are like, "Oh, Derek, we want you to look at it." So Golda Cat spent a bunch of gold tickets, and he said, I want to co-op the entire queue, and how much do I have to bribe you to put this to the top of the queue? And so, anyways, Stone Top is like 1,600 pages, so I don't know that I'm up to that, but I'll definitely take a look at it tomorrow, and we'll see what we're gonna do. So again, it's gonna be a very short stream tonight. Again, I just want to work my way back into talking. What's up, Nimble? What's up, Zipperfist? Nimble, good to see you. You never sleep, man. You're up early streaming. You were streaming today at 10, and now it's the other side. So I am alive. Somehow. I'm alive and breaking out. That's what I'm noticing. Now that I'm in this terrible light. This is a very raking light. What's up, Odd? Good to see you. Good thing chat is full of unks, or you would get what the hell is Google Plus? Yeah, Google Plus was pretty awesome back in the day. Yeah, I was watching that this morning. Actually, I was watching it the other day when Evan was looking at the initial feedback. I am torn about the changes. It's quick and it's simple, and I appreciate that, but it also feels so I thought the old method was clever. And I know that's Evan spent a good amount of time talking about, why clever isn't always great. And I respect that, but I think, and I mean, I think that's really ultimately, a strength from him is to be able to make that kind of decision. But yeah, I like, I like my solutions aren't always elegant. My solutions are, or my solutions aren't always quick or nimble. My solutions, I want to make them, feel appropriate within the space that they're in, and sort of utilize the core mechanics of the game. But yeah. Well, again, I'm just describing that some things have changed in the last 2 weeks. I was sick, but then I got better, but I still really couldn't, stream for any length of period of time, or talk for any length of period of time. So I was, I took the opportunity to kind of break down my rig, and I redid some stuff a little bit, and I'm, messing around with some different stuff. But yeah. What's up, KC? KC says, damn, just saw the schedule you posted. Busy summer. Are any of the Discord games you're running going to end up as VODs? Yeah, so KC's just talking about my summer schedule that I'm going to be running for the patrons. I'm going to be running 4 games this summer, in addition for the patrons. I'm going to be running a Blades in the Dark game, a Daggerheart game, an Avatar Legends game, and the One Ring game. To be determined, Casey. I still need to get a poll or permissions from the folks who are going to be involved in those games, as to how do they want to be, if they want to be recorded for posterity. So remains to be seen. That's right. So Roll for Combat did sign up for my One Ring game, but he was unable to get it. The One Ring game was actually our most popular game. It actually had it was the first one to sell out. So there was a roll off, and so Roll for Combat did not get into that game, but he did get into his secondary choice, which was our Wednesday Daggerheart game. But because Roll for Combat is going to be going to on Safari for a while, for a couple weeks, they may have some subbing in from Jess. Red a cop. But yeah, well, it should be good. It should be fun. It should be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I'm a little, again, I'm not the biggest fan in the world of VTTs. It's just not my preferred way to run a game. Especially with people I don't know, or haven't really run a ton of games for. Like, I can run games for my existing group online because I've known them for decades. But yeah, it's a little, scary is not the right word, but it's always, you have to, a beginning is a very delicate time, to quote Princess Irulan. Yeah, I'm pretty happy about it. Now, also, in the midst of all that, I'm also going to be trying to kick off my solo play of Moria, which I'm going to be doing as a live stream. And so I'm going to try to fit that in as well. So it remains to be seen. There's a lot of stuff to do. Yeah, it's good to be here. I missed you guys. I mean, I've been very busy on my Discord, talking to everybody because I haven't had the opportunity to vent, in this way as I tend to do. What's up, Broken Blade? Good to see you. I think my brain would explode from the rapid system switching. Even when I know games well, it takes me 1 to 2 weeks to rewire my brain. I could see that. However, I think, number one, I've always been pretty good with that type of stuff. Even like my board game background and stuff like that, like just playing a bunch of different board games, usually fairly complex ones. So to switch, to context switch from game to game to game is not that big of a deal. But also, quite frankly, doing all of these, one, on my, just doing this channel, I've kind of gotten used to bouncing around from game to game to game to game to game, to the point where sometimes I do start to blend them together a little bit. You're just getting back from Gamma? That's how far back you are? Thaddeus also talking about the schedule. Yeah, it looks packed. And I was just saying, so in addition to everything else that I'm running, I want to continue to do my Tuesdays and Thursdays streams. I want to continue to do first looks, sponsored streams if people want to sponsor streams. But also, I want to do my Moria live play with chat. And that is, in theory, going to be combined with a Moria mega game on the Discord using the solo rules. So it'll be a mega game where people can play as a group, but also play as solo, which is something that I've been sort of trying to build to over the last couple of seasons from various different mega games. Because I think that is a huge opportunity. And to be completely transparent, a big part of the reason that I've been inspired by it to a certain degree has been the success of our play-by-post games that have been run for so long by folks like London and Kalana and the like, because it's asynchronous in that way. It's offline. So that's going to be a mega solo game. And ideally, another thing that we've always talked about is this idea of cross-pollinating a mega game with a game that's being played on the channel. Now, in a cool, perfect world, right, it would be like an actual play, I'd get Smith and Bob and Tim together, and we would go and do a Daggerheart game or something, and it would be part of the same mega world. But that requires a lot of herding of cats. So the advantage of this Moria thing is that it's I'm playing it solo, you can play it solo. And there'll be an option, obviously, to play as a group if a GM wants to sign up. But, hey, what's up, Aaron? Good to see you. You enjoy the lighting? Thank you. Appreciate it. Looking forward to Origins, my friend. Really appreciate this. By the way, Aaron's going to be there with Mad Dragon. Going to have a booth. Going to be selling dice towers. Going to be selling dice sets. Get your KOLC custom KOLC dice. And the folks at Mad Dragon were nice enough to sponsor NightCon, so we'll be making sure to give them a bunch of shout outs while we're there. So I really appreciate Aaron and his wife. Thank you so much for that. Would you ever do a first look at various VTTs? Well, I don't know if it would really be a first look, because I have used most of them, I think, at this point. I don't know if I've used all of them. Maybe. I mean, some of them I just it's whatever. But yeah, I mean, we could do that. I'm always up to try to find, again, any sort of content that can help the gaming community. I think that's going to be, pretty good there. Oh no! Dang, Thaddeus. That sucks. Got a bunch of deadlines dropped in my head, one of which lands right in the middle of Origins. Well, that sucks, Thaddeus. I'm sorry to hear that. Was looking forward to having you attend. We're gonna have a good crew there. Well, you never know. Maybe some, I don't know. Maybe strange feet. Maybe strange fates will align. Are you nearby, Thaddeus? Is it like a drive, a flight? Is it? I don't exactly know where you're located. That would be one actually that I have not used yet. Steam. I have not used that one. I got early access to it because I was a member of MCDM's or whatever patron, Matt Colville's patron, and then whatever. But I never actually opened it up. I never actually used it. So that is something I have not used. But, in my general experience, I'm not really as impressed. The things that I like about VTTs, I've discovered, are very different from what other people like about VTTs. So that is something I think is very interesting. And again, it would require some more in-depth thinking about it and conversation about it. But generally speaking, I think what I look for and what I try to do with a VTT is different than what other people look for in a VTT. This is true. I do not like things that are designed for people. That is very true. Okay, you're in Texas. KC says, I was surprised by how well the first 2 sponsored streams went. Either marketing folks actually did their research on the channel or it was just really lucky. I don't know. I don't think it was either of those things, KC. What I think it was, and I'm going to be honest with you right now. I think it was that the companies that reached out to me. No, I don't even think it's that. I don't even think it's that I'm a salesman. I think that the companies that reached out to me failed to appreciate how different demographic wise my audience is from, say, the average dungeon tuber. So I think that is what, and I don't think that they knew that. I think they just saw, oh, it's a small medium-ish channel, right? Under 25,000 subs, right? Because I consider anything, when you get to around 25 to 50,000, I consider you to be like a firmly a medium-sized dungeon tuber. And then anything above 100K, right, is a large dungeon tuber. And then obviously there's like, Ginny D's near 1 million, but that's not even a dungeon tuber at that point. That's like a legit big, huge YouTube channel. So anyways, so I'm sort of this small, medium, niche YouTube channel. And I mean, I'm not knocking anybody who has a small, medium, niche YouTube channel, but I think there's, I think that our audience is very unique. We're very different. We buy games. That is a big 100%. There's a bunch of whales. There are people, there might be people who you could classify as whales. It doesn't take much to be classified as a TTRPG as a whale. I don't remember where I saw it once. It was maybe in I don't remember what it was, but it was saying something like the average, I think it was saying the average TTRPG player, but I think they really meant the average 5e player or something like that. But I think they meant the average person buys 2.5 books ever, in RPG space. So, if you go beyond 2.5, you're if you're at 10, you're already kind of a whale. You know what I mean? So I think that, the fact that we have people who are not only do they have disposable income, our demographic leans a little older, maybe a little bit more well-established, not always, but generally. But also these are people who I think are more enthusiasts about the hobby as a whole. They, a lot of them are GMs, as Cynical Dragon noted, or GMs, or even people who are legitimately interested in the game design space, RPGs as a medium, RPGs as a message, RPGs as a means of art. So we have people who are interested in picking up books that they have no intention of reading, or no intention of playing, but just because they think there's an interesting mechanic or a cool way of laying out the book, and they're interested in learning. So I think learning is a huge thing that ties this community together in a way that it doesn't tie other people, that other communities I don't think are as interested in. So anyways, long and the short of it is, I think, it is a unique audience. Now, I'm not saying it's the only one that exists in the entirety of the Dungeon Tube internet. But I've talked to a lot of people. I've been in this game for 5-6 years now, and I've met a lot of other content creators, big and small. And generally speaking, I think that there is, I feel pretty correct in saying that we're kind of unique. Right. If you're a whale, you buy the hardcover. Jen K, I found your channel because of Ginny D. Really? How? How did that even happen? That's interesting. I don't know that Ginny D would have ever shouted me out. Small audience purchasing dense, yes. So. Right. Well, that's another big reason too, Jams, which is that, you know, for a lot of people, if it doesn't say 5e, they go, oh, okay, I'm not interested, you know? So not saying that that you shouldn't advertise, you know, your game, but like if you're going to advertise, you know, Last Arcs or, you know, Pumpkin Spice or, excuse me, or Tunnels and Trolls on a 5e game, a channel, you know, what are the odds that that audience is going to pick up a brand new game, a brand new system? My guess is very low. Now, the bet that you're making is that the 20,000 or 30,000 views that channel gets at some really low percentage is going to be more conversions than, say, me. But I think that our conversion rate is so high, it's actually much more better. And the fact also that I'm charging way less to these sponsors than these big channels are. So, yeah. I have definitely accidentally bought books I've owned. I definitely have accidentally bought books I already own many times. In fact, I was just looking at that the other day when I was back there organizing stuff. Hey, Edward, what's up?
Edward tipped $20. Shit, I missed the start. You've been greatly missed, and I'm glad you're feeling better.
I don't feel like I've missed you at all, Edward, because we've just been jamming in Evan streams. I see you in there every time. You're a real fan, man. I feel like I talk to Edward more in Evan's streams than I do anywhere than I do in my own Discord. Oh, okay. You watched her video about Daggerheart. That got you interested in Daggerheart, and then you found our channel. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, we did do a lot of Daggerheart content. Nice. Wonderful. I'm glad you appreciate us. Yeah, I didn't think she did. She definitely does not know I exist. Notice me, senpai. Oh, I'm sure Stone Top did very well with Quinn's recommendation. 99%. I mean, I don't know if that's a real statistic, but we'll say it is. It sounds right. 99% of people who buy 5e don't buy any third-party stuff. I can see that for sure as well, which is crazy because there's just, I'm used to 3rd edition, right? I didn't play 5th edition, not really. You know, I don't have the sort of encyclopedic knowledge that I do about pretty much every other edition of D&D, but 5th edition, in many ways, was a lot like AD&D 1st edition. You know, when you think about AD&D 1st edition, like, you know, there's not that many books. There really isn't. And, you know, there's only like, you know, Player's Handbook, Monster Manual, Dungeon Master's Guide, Unearthed Arcana, Deities and Demigods, Monster Manual 2, Fiend Folio, Dungeoneer Survival Guide, Wilderness Survival Guide. You know, so there's not really that many, you know. I mean, now, you know, AD&D arguably was from like 78 to 89. And, you know, in that 10 years, you know, there was maybe only like 10 hardcovers. Oriental Adventures. I feel like I'm forgetting one. Technically Legends and Lore, but Legends and Lore was just a reprint of Deities and Demigods. Yeah, that's it. But then we got to 2nd edition, and 2nd edition had endless splat, you know, complete book of fighters, complete book of wizards, complete book of rogues, complete book of ninjas, complete book of barbarians, ancient Rome, Celts, Ancient Greek, the green books. Then there were the blue books, right? The DM books, which were great, by the way. Most of them, not all of them, but some of them were great. So you had the red books, you had the green books, you had the blue books. Then you had, what was it, like, I don't know, 15 campaign settings, and, you know, all that stuff. So you just had an insane amount of product. And then third edition came, and third edition, you know, blew that out of the water. And they printed an entire edition's worth of books in just 4 years. Then they rolled out 3.5, and they rolled out all the same books again. They gave them different names, right? Sword and Fist became Complete Warrior. Defenders of the Faith became Complete Divine. Tome and Blood became Complete Arcane. Masters of the Wild became Complete Primal. I don't remember what it was called. But point is, there was a ton of books. And then 4th edition came out, and 4th edition, you got every year, you had a new PHB, a new DMG, and a new monster manual, right? So that, to be fair, they actually never published the DMG 3, which I was kind of sad about. But the idea was that every year they would release a new, one new of each book. So you had Player's Handbook 1, 2, 3, Monster Manual 1, 2, 3, Dungeon Master Guide 1, 2. Well, they never came out with the third one. But, and on top of that, you had Martial Power, Arcane Power, Divine Power, Primal Power, Psychic Power, all the GM books, it was just so much. The Magic Item books, just infinite books. Anyways. And then 5th edition came out, and there really wasn't that much. Not really. You know, because a lot of people, like, when they talk about 5th edition, and they talk about their books, a lot of times they're talking about adventures. You know, like, that's not a 5th edition. It's not a book. That's just an adventure, you know? But, like, in terms of the actual books, hardcover books, I mean, you all know better than me. Obviously, we had Player's Handbook, Monster Manual, Dungeon Master's Guide. Then we had Xanathar's Guide, Tasha's Guide, Mordenkainen's Guide. Is that it? Like, is everything else just an adventure? It's interesting. Obviously, Volo. Okay, Volo. I don't own that one. I don't own Volos, and I don't own Mordenkainen's. Actually, I don't think I own Tasha's either. I own Xanathar's Guide. But yeah, it's but I mean, obviously that benefited greatly, you know, third-party publishers, because the 5e audience was you know, famished for content, and, you know, random dungeon tubers and random whoever were more, you know, and random publishers were more than willing to sell them that. And so you just had an absolute explosion of, you know, third-party publishers making stuff for 5th edition, new classes, new ancestries, new everything. But to my knowledge, and again, please tell me I'm wrong here, I don't know how many of those books really created like new systems, you know? But again, I'm not a 5e super expert, so maybe I'm wrong. I just feel like a lot of them was truly splat, you know? I don't know Fizban. I mean, I know who Fizban is, and it doesn't surprise me that something's named Fizban, because they just steal famous characters from their IP and give them a book. There's a lot of stuff about which is so wild, you know? I mean, I don't know what I'm genuinely curious what the marketing strategy was. Maybe the marketing strategy was, and I could be wrong here, right? But like, doesn't Wizards of the Coast get a cut off of everything sold on DM Guild? So my guess is their prospect was, let's just let other people do all the work and we'll just take 30% or whatever it is, you know. That would be my guess. What's up, Keith? What's up, Vin? This is the right amount of darkness? Okay. I'm glad you approve. Yeah. I've been trying to keep up. You've been posting all over the place. Well, not all over the place, but there's too much stuff going on, and then I get online and the conversation has already moved on. Yeah, listen, I don't hate that they didn't do class bloat. I mean, Pathfinder 2 came out in 2019, so it's 7 years old, and they have like what now, 35 classes? That's too many. Come on. Was the Myth Weaver's 3.5e character sheet similar to the core one? I don't remember. Myth Weavers. The name sounds familiar. Was that like one of the online tools? I used to use Dyslexic. Do you remember Dyslexic character sheets? That's the ones I used to use for 3.5. Was Dyslexic. For sure. Got it. Okay. Yeah, that's too deep of a cut even for me. Yes, big time. Well, again, you know, we've talked about this before at length. You know, not, but like, during the 2012, 2013 period, I used to go to the convention circuit, and even to some of the smaller conventions to playtest extensively D&D Next. Because I was a D&D guy. I mean, I loved D&D. I loved 4th edition, and I was excited to see what they were going to do with it. And, you know, they ended up going in a very different direction, especially when they fired Monty Cook. And I ended up not really liking what they did with it. And the thing that I basically gathered was that, you know, Wizards of the Coast had basically written off D&D. And it had a skeleton crew, and it was kind of a release just to keep it sort of, you know, in circulation and publication. And it was kind of a throwback, you know, to the old heads. In my opinion, 5th edition D&D, especially when it first came out, was damn near an OSR game. And I know people look at me like I'm crazy, but like, feats were optional. And when we played 5th edition, we didn't use feats. We treated it like it was BX D&D. You know, people are like, no one played feats as optional. And we did, you know, like it was viewed as, you know, I felt like they were basically making a cleaned up version of AD&D. And they threw feats and skills in there, you know, for people who wanted like 3rd edition. But I feel like Wizards of the Coast kind of basically said, we lost all the 3rd edition people to PF1. So we're not going to bother, you know, trying to court them. And then, you know, 4th edition, whatever, you know, we'll write that off completely. We'll steal what was actually really good tech and we'll put it into our game and no one will know because we'll, you know, cover up the gamist language with, you know, instead of a very clearly formatted, you know, color-coded, symbolic presentation, we'll just make it like 4 paragraphs of natural language that people will debate over for the next 10 years. But, you know, that was how AD&D worked, right? That was how the game worked. Dungeons and Kittens has a nice system. I've seen Dungeons and Kittens, I think, on the shelf. Haven't really picked that one up. Hey, what's up, Vaults of the Year? Yeah, I was never a big... Again, I've talked about this before. Character sheets are really important to me. I loathe the aesthetically dead character sheet of the Excel spreadsheet. I'd rather not play, to be honest with you. I would rather not play than play on an Excel spreadsheet. It's so impersonal and horrible, and I absolutely hate it. Yeah, again, why in the direction that they chose to take 5e and the places they didn't take it, it's very confusing to me, for sure. But no real topic tonight, Keith. Just, I haven't streamed in 13 days, and, I'm just kind of, getting the wheel going again. I mean, true, Hardrick, but, new content's fun. I mean, it's always fun. It can get out of hand. I mean, look, we've all lived through endless splat, and, again, I mean, I'm not trying to throw PF2 under the, bus here, but I think it has, 35 classes or something, maybe approaching 40. I think there's over 400 weapons and armor, It's crazy. Yeah, I still firmly believe, Zen, that in 5e was designed to recapture grognards, and if you play 5e, as I have, right, with no feats, no skills, just use proficiency in an ability score, right? So basically kind of combine saves with skills, right? So you just say everything is a strength check, whether it's a save or opening a door. And you just say, hey, you're proficient in strength. So when you make a strength save or a strength check, they're basically the same thing. You get to add that proficiency bonus, right? That +2 or that +3 to your roll. And it's pretty basic, right? Because even think about things that are just so different from 5e, from everything else that we had seen up to that point. Your ability scores cap at 20. That is so opposite, from 3rd edition and from 4th edition. It's not even funny. There's just so many stuff in there. You're talking about a modern game, and yet there are still items in the game like Belt of Storm Giant Strength and Gauntlets of Ogre Power, which just straight up raise your strength score to 18 or 20 or 20 or whatever the fuck it raises it to, right? So it's oh, your strength is 12? No, your strength is 22 now. Right? There's nothing about when I read 5e, I'm oh, that's a cool game. It's AD&D. The items in it, the classes in it function more or less as sort of, AD&D. But anyways, if you get rid of skills and replace it with just make a strength check, but you get to add your proficiency bonus. You get rid of feats, which you didn't really have to because they were optional anyways. Hell, if you skip subclasses, you have basically Shadow Dark. So, I mean, it's, 5e D&D without feats, skills, or subclasses is Shadow Dark. And, anyways. 400 weapons and no Beck to Corbin. What are we even doing here? Great question. There's a lot of choices. There's definitely a lot of choices, and arguably it doesn't even make that big of a difference. So it is a thing. Anyways, what have you all been up to? I feel again, I've been talking to some of you regularly on my Discord. And again, if you're not a member of our Patreon, you should be, so we can hang out and you can get more of me. But I myself, I've been very busy getting ready for NightCon. I've been really brushing up on my arcs because I'm going to be playing a run through of the Blighted Reach campaign at Origins at NightCon with Roll for Combat and Bob and Trevor from our Discord, which will be really cool. Oh, GM Scott's turning into a pumpkin. Peace out, GM Scott. And well, it's just that, it's what Gandalf said when he returned from the dead. And so I'm saying it because I haven't streamed in 2 weeks. So I was just making a Lord of the Rings quote. That's all. The turn of the tide is just, I'm back. That's all. I'm better. Let's see. I've been trying to teach myself a little Tinkercad and Fusion 360 so I can start making my own 3D prints, which is, that's something cool. What else? I've been really, I got really caught up in, hold on. I was showing this to the patrons the other day. I discovered a trove of my old adventure. I used to have like a bunch of PDFs obtained a long time ago of questionable legality, of a bunch of scans of old D&D stuff. And so I've been like thinking about or talking about doing a series where we go through like every, AD&D adventure, every basic D&D adventure. Now I'm sure other channels have done that, obviously, but I think it'd be a cool perspective because number one, I've played a number of these, but there's some adventures that I've never played. There's some adventures I've never even read. So it'd be kind of fun. And I'm not talking about like doing like a 10-minute review, right? I'm talking about doing a deep dive, where we go through the spoilers, complete and total spoilers, where we go into it, every single element of it. So that'll be pretty cool. I think that'll be really neat. And then I also found a cache of the old Iron Crown Enterprises MERP, right? Middle Earth role-playing game. And I've been going through, that stuff. Because I've been getting ready to run my One Ring campaign. And of course, the good way to do that is to go find a 35-year-old game from the late 80s and start reading a bunch about that. I'm kidding. That's a terrible idea. Vaults of Yesteryear. I'm about to dive into Stonetop. First try of PBTA. Well, all I will say is don't get discouraged if I don't know what your background is, but, just try to remember that a lot of your instincts and habits are going to be wrong, and it works out best. It works out better if you sort of unlearn, what you have learned. You must unlearn, you must unlearn what you have learned. Oh, that was a terrible Yoda. But because it almost works better when you don't have any sort of preconceived concepts or notions about what a game should be. But we're going to be looking at Stonetop tomorrow, Vaults. So, if you want to hop in and participate, maybe you can ask some questions, or if you see something, maybe I'll say something that you're like, oh, that's really interesting. Good to know. It is always token. Oh, I want to try something really quick here. There was an update to this, and I think it's Shift. Hold on a sec here. No, that's not it. Hold on a sec. Control? Yeah, Control. That. Okay. Something in fiction. All right. So, cool. So, I can queue up messages, and it'll keep them in a queue, and then I can, click through the queue and work my way through the queue. Very neat. Yeah. Daggerheart definitely needs. You definitely need the PBTA DNA in order to do that appropriately. Do I think that? I mean, yeah. I mean, wasn't it? 1989 was 40 minus 6 was 37 years ago. So, basically 35 years ago. Cool. Glad to hear it. What's up, Jackal? Jackal will be one of the players in my The One Ring game. I actually need to finish filling out my, or not finish, but I need to fill out my background cards. My backstory grid. So, for those of you who don't know what that is, moving stuff around here. There might be some. This stream is still sponsored by Last Arcs because that was the last time that we streamed, by the way. Which I understand it is today. It's ending in 3 minutes. So if you didn't back now, use our affiliate link. Go to that old stream. But there's still a bunch of Last Arc stuff. So there you go, Last Arcs. You're getting your stuff back. But this is one of my favorite methods that I have that I have developed into my system when doing a Session 0 mutual character creation. Is I love using this backstory card system, and I sort of tweak it and change it to my own elements. But the idea is that as the GM or as a collaborative group, you fill in these 12 cells, 3 individuals, 3 groups, 3 places, 3 events, and then the players will draw from a bunch of random prompts which randomly reference these elements, and they get them to sort of answer questions and innately tie their characters not only to each other but into the specific game elements or world elements that you have sort of referenced in the game. So, for example, the group has decided that the patron of their primary patron of their adventures is going to be Gandalf the Grey. So Gandalf is going to be, obviously, one of the individuals. And so there will be a number of prompts which will reference Gandalf and sort of represent, how the characters maybe initially met him and all this other stuff. So it sort of gets over that whole, you met in an inn type thing, Testy Trekkie. Today's returning sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. Now, you mentioned Raid Shadow Legends, Testy, but hold on. Now, remember, we always used to joke that our channel was so untouchable that even Raid Shadow Legends had never reached out to us. And then, if you remember, last year, I think, I don't know if it was before I lost my job or after I lost my job, but Raid Shadow Legends finally reached out to us. And I went to the patrons and I said, I'm going to put this in your guys' hands because, look, we all know that this would just be strictly a money cash grab. I'm leaving it I'm going to do it to a poll, because if I do this, you guys are going to have to sit through these stupid, 30-second plugs, these 30-second sponsors. And, the patrons were like, yeah, go get your money, Derek, go earn the bag. And I said, all right, cool. And so we responded to Raid Shadow Legends and we said, let's do it. And then they ghosted us. They never replied. So, Zipperfist, they are not for sale anymore. We know someone in our community who knows these publishers or these people. And they said that there was some sort of they were like, someone in their group or someone in their legal group kind of got wanted to leave the company and it was a little messy. And so they have to reincorporate, and there's apparently they will eventually one day, be republished. Good luck with your Invincible game. That sounds awesome, Wes. It's good to be back, Creepy. Oh, what was I saying? Oh, right. I got distracted by Raid Shadow Legends. But I did get this. And I don't know if they're actually trying to sponsor us. Okay? So, I have to read a little bit more into it. But we did get something from Glass Cannon Unplugged. And they said, "Hi, my name is so and such. I manage collaborations with reviewers and content creators. We are pleased to announce that we are bringing Sanctuary to the tabletop. This September, we are launching the Kickstarter for the Diablo role-playing game. I love your tabletop RPG content." Again, do they say that to everybody, or what? Have they ever even seen our channel? I don't know, maybe. And I want to see if you'd be interested in checking out our quick start booklet and running a preview for your audience. Blah, 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 blah. So, now, Diablo 4, never played it, don't even remotely have an interest in the kind of like loot, gross loot thing. That it became. Diablo 3, I was so excited for it, and then when it launched, I played it for like 1 day or 2 days, and then I uninstalled it and never played it again. But Diablo 2 and Diablo 1 at the time were like some of my favorite games of all time. I loved them. They were environmental. They were, kind of creepy and scary. And I love the class design of it. I still think that Diablo 2, I think the class design in Diablo 2 was one of the best designs ever. I think the assassin was amazing. The paladin was amazing. The druid was amazing. I was never a big necromancer fan, but yeah. Stay a while and listen. You kind of gotta go a little bit Sean Connery, Stay a while and listen. But yeah. Diablo was meant to have its Kickstarter in December, and it never happened, and they stopped mentioning it. I mean, they've already burned you on your interest by having not. Look, you can't. If people say, it's one thing to better to talk about the Kickstarter and then not have the Kickstarter launch than to, do the Kickstarter and then not talk about it for 6 months. I think that would be more problem. You should offer to cosplay as Deckard Cain if they give you a gig. Our story begins. That's pretty cool. I remember the original Diablo. When did that come out? 96. Was so weird and cool because you could play the whole thing with just a mouse. Yeah. Oh, the world of Sanctuary, the Tristram, Diablo 1, the original Diablo 1 is about as much, of a classic mega dungeon as you can. It's literally the town, and then you walk outside, and then there's a giant dungeon, and you go into the dungeon, and you start fighting monsters, It's awesome. And I love Diablo 1 a lot, but I think Diablo 2, but again, as with all things, here comes Roll for Combat. You know why you could play with just a mouse? There is a reason. Please enlighten us. Oh, it's burned into my, it's like the gem. It's like the gem from the soul of Diablo from the first game, right? It's forever burned into my head. But because a lot of the things, that were developed in Diablo, they flat out just copied / stole them / ported them directly into World of Warcraft, which obviously at the time was like the biggest game of all time, right? And everything from, a lot of the tree structures to like the way that assassins use traps, they just stole that and not stole it. It's their company. They stole that and put that into, to the hunters, and, it was just, again, it was just an iconic game, Yeah, but again, I'm curious myself because while Diablo 1 and Diablo 2 certainly had treasure and loot, I don't think, the modern Diablos feel to me more like what they would call nowadays a looter shooter. And I just I never saw it that way. And I remember being involved with Diablo 2 and loving the game. And then coming back to it years later when I was with some of my friends, and these are the people who used to play, like, my friends would like go online and they'd have like some Javazon build and they'd just go farm the cow level. And I just remember looking at that and being like, that is something fundamentally different from what I was doing and playing. Like the entire experience of that was very different. And it's the same way that, like, when I played World of Warcraft, I would typically get to high level and then I would quit, the game. Whereas other people would be like, oh, the game starts at high level. Now you can grind for your end game gear. And I never liked grinding. So like the modern, when they turned Diablo more into a loot box game, a loot crate game, where it was all about getting like the max high roll on, some random item, and that was the achievement, and then that kind of, to a certain extent, Diablo 2 sort of evolved into that because that's what the audience wanted. So you could argue that that's why we got more of it in Diablo 3 and more of it in Diablo Mobile and Diablo 4. But now, like, that's the whole game. And it feel and all of the horror and the kind of gothic terror of those early dungeons is just completely gone. And it's unfortunate because, I mean, it was so atmospheric and it was still a great game with a great multiplayer experience and that isometric view, the mini map. I mean, it was quite the game. All right, so here's my roll for combat. It says it was designed to be played with just a mouse. All the early Blizzard games were designed to work with just one hand, as everyone in the Asian bangs would hold a cigarette in the other. There you go. Right. And exactly. Will it go D3 or D4, or will it go 1 or 2? I think it should go 1 or 2, And I'm not a video game guy. And the reason I'm not a video game guy is because I stopped caring about video games back in like 2006. Because I think video games got worse after that. But recently, right, recently, like in the last couple of months, they did an expansion, right, to Diablo 2. And I almost bought that. I almost, like, I haven't played Diablo 2 probably in 20 years. Maybe longer. But I almost bought that because I was like, oh, I'd play through that, right? The Warlock or whatever. It seemed cool. But again, for me, video games used to be about gameplay first and story and narrative and character arcs and stuff second or third. And I was always of the opinion that if I wanted a story, I'd read a book. I was playing a video game for the gameplay. And part of the big reason I don't like video games as much is because I feel like that has, gone away. And even for the games that are still focused on the gameplay, I feel like, this is going to sound weird, I feel like they're trying too hard to be too clever to make it focused on the gameplay. Like, I've watched people play Slay the Spire, and I'm kind of like, that game to me seems entirely soulless. It feels like playing Magic the Gathering for no stakes, which is something I've never really fundamentally understood. Or it'd be like playing like solitaire Magic the Gathering, like goldfishing. I don't see the real appeal of that. So yeah, I don't, because it's again, it's kind of in that same way where it's just like, oh, I hope I can get a better run than last time, right? Like the enjoyment of that game comes from playing it over and over and over and over again. That has never been me. Like, I'm the kind of person who, I buy a game. There's like a handful of games that I've played more than once. But I buy a game, I play it, I beat it once, and a lot of times I'll never play it again. So, yeah, no. I have no interest in that, Jams, at all. Ah, okay. Well, good to know. Okay, 2 people said I wouldn't like the Warlock because it's like a D3 class in D2. Yeah, I wouldn't like it. Second soda. Yeah, I don't know. I guess again I'm too old, or I'm just I don't know. I'm that's not even an old thing. I'm just stuck in my ways. I don't care about story in a video game. Mario, the princess is in another castle. That's all I need. Link, Zelda needs your help. Save her. That's all I need. And I'm good. Now, cool. Give me cool. Give me a cool overworld and cool boss fights and fun levels and it's a blue shell and it's a different colored Yoshi and for me it's about the gameplay. It's not about the story in the narrative or being part of the narrative, and none of that actually matters to me. I watched that video that Matt Colville put out. I don't remember exactly why he was talking about this, but he was describing at great length his very intricate adventure plot. And he basically started talking about how, like, and to the surprise of no one, Matt Colville was like, I don't think, writing, people basically, Matt Colville was saying like, the classic refrain, especially from OSRs, right? Prep situations, not plots. And Matt Colville was basically refuting that, directly. And saying like, he's like, I think that's not, he wasn't saying that's terrible advice, but he was saying like, he's like, I think it's great to write plots. I think, because Matt Colville's coming at it from a perspective of this kind of video game. Like I'm going to bring you along on my story, which is what an author does. But I have no interest in being, a book reader or a choose your own adventure path in a video game. I don't, even when like I just, yeah. I'll give you another example. When RPGs started becoming less, when computer role-playing games got less linear, I actually liked them less. With all the decision trees and, you could go do this and that. No. My idea of non-linearity in a computer RPG was like a emerald weapon, or ruby weapon, raising a golden chocobo, getting Knights of the Round. It was like a bonus content or a bonus challenge. I don't need or want 75 different endings. I don't care about replayability in that way. I don't need to see every ending. I don't want the good ending or the bad ending. I just want the ending. So it's very strange. I mean, you're not wrong, Ben. You're not wrong. I'm just saying there. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, Cinemas. Oh yeah. I played, the gold box games. I played, I love the SSI games. So I love Eye of the Beholder 1, 2, and 3, Dungeon Hack, Menzo Baranzan. Those are some of my, I have very, 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 very fond memories of playing those. And then as they shifted to the Infinity Engine, I think is what it was called. I don't remember what it was called. I'm trying to remember what it was called. Was it called the Infinity Engine? But obviously, like from Black Owl Studios, Baldur's Gate 1, 2, and Icewind Dale 1 and 2, especially Icewind Dale 1. 10 out of 10. I love that game. And, again, it's for me, Icewind Dale 1 and 2 kind of represent that transitional space, where like gaming looked cool, and it was really, you know, it was awesome and it was cool, but it wasn't like super too over the top. I mean, Neverwinter Nights, I guess, was probably like the last, but I didn't beat Neverwinter Nights, so you know that was kind of like where I started to kind of check out a little bit too. But like for me, you know, Baldur's Gate, you know, 2 slash, you know, Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 slash Icewind Dale, like that was, you know, that was peak for me as well. So I'm right there with you, you know. In fact, I mean, yeah. I am feeling better. Thank you, Woodland Fellowship. Yeah, Infinity Engine. There we go. Yeah, Curse of the Azure Bonds. What is it? Something Hillsfar, Pool of Radiance. Great stuff. So, and then I'm trying to think what happened. The other games that I used to play were like the Might and Magic games, right? So, Might and Magic 3, Isles of Terra, Might and Magic 4, Clouds of Xeen, Might and Magic 5, Dark Side of Xeen were all, for me, you know, 9.5s out of 10, 10 out of 10. Amazing games, incredible games. Would love to play those someday over on Game Night channel, but I mean, I only play. I still got a Final Fantasy 1 game to beat. You know, we've played like, you know, we started the campaign like 6 months. We started the game 6 months ago, and we've played like 4 times. The problem is with Might and Magic 7 or 6 or whatever. It went 3D. You know, it went to like that first person mode. It looked like you were playing like an early, you know, like a Doom or like an early Quake. And I hated that. I absolutely hated that. The moment the game became like too realistic, like it granted, it was still early 3D, so it looked like shit. But like I respect, one of the things I do at least respect about Baldur's Gate 3 is that it's isometric. I do respect that. Yeah. Ultima 4, 5, and 6, you know, the Black Gate, is that the one? I think that's like my favorite. I haven't played all the Ultimas, admittedly, but yeah. Wizardry, that was another great game. So I used to play all these games. Tim was more of a bard. I had Bard's Gate. I don't remember if there was different, but I had that for my Amiga. I had Bard's Tale for my Amiga, but I never had it beyond that. So like once I got like my first like 386 maybe. So, well, I did see that on Steam randomly, which I'm never on Steam, but I was on Steam because I was loading up Tabletop Simulator, and I did see that advertised, but I kind of skipped over it because I was never like I assumed it was something to do with, you know, Heroes of Might and Magic, which was not a role-playing game. I mean, Heroes of Might and Magic was still cool, but, you know, it was pretty sweet. Hey, what's up? Yes, with the boot disc, yes. No, well, my Amiga didn't have a hard drive, so I remember I had like 2 or 3 disk drives, right? And you had like the games would come with like 18 floppy disks, and you had to constantly be swapping them and swapping them and swapping them. I remember there was that one game. It was like The Adventures of Max Beam or something like that. And I remember it had like 20 discs. But yeah, so 386 was like my first, right, Intel-based architecture PC. Willie Beamish, holy shit, that is exactly it. Wow, what a lot of old school stuff today, Mike. Asking you about the house you grew up in, and we're talking about Willie Beamish. Yes, Willie Beamish. Wow. Yeah, correct. We're getting really old here. By the way, this KM Boutron is my oldest and dearest friend, who I grew up with, and was like, he always had cool new computers and all the best video games and stuff like that. And he was the one who got me Willie Beamish. Yeah. But yeah, and then when I first got my 386, it was all about the LucasArts games. You know, it was about Maniac Mansion, Day of the Tentacle, Full Throttle, Loom, Curse of Monkey Island, all that cool stuff. Yeah, so, just like everything else, they, it sounds terrible. I'm sure they did. I gave up after Mandate of Heaven, I think is what was the last Might and Magic game I played. Let me see. Let me go to their Wikipedia page. Might and Magic computer games. All right, list of light magic. Here we go. Okay. Yeah. So, Might and Magic, Inner Sanctum, 86. Might and Magic 2, Gates to Another World. I never really played those. I mean, I played a little bit, but they were a little bit. I was 6 and 4. Might and Magic 6, The Mandate of Heaven. Never mind. The last one I played was Might and Magic 7, For Blood and Honor. That was the last one. But Might and Magic 6, The Mandate of Heaven, the company had gotten bought by 3DO, and they made it 3D, and I just hated it. And apparently they came out with one in 2002 and 2014, which is news to me. Interesting. What's going on, London? Good to see you. Hey, thank you, Denbach. Appreciate it. Oh, yeah, The Dig. Yeah, that was a good one. Oh, the Indiana Jones. Yeah, I remember those. Those were awesome. Oh, Grim Fandango was also really good. I liked Full Throttle better, but my favorite LucasArts adventure game is Loom. That's my favorite one. Loom is by far my favorite one. In fact, I could probably still walk through mentally how to beat that game. Oh yeah. I don't think I ever owned those or played those, but see, that's the type of stuff that it'd be cool to get an emulator and play those old those old DOS games, It'd be cool. And I'm not even against it, right? I know that a lot of these not a lot of people have fixed bugs and made better ports and all this other stuff, which is absolutely cool. Yeah. Oh yeah, LucasArts was so great. Those were some of my favorite games. What was the space game or the shoot? Wasn't Rebel? What was it? It wasn't called Rebel Fighter. What was the space game? The space ship game, right? Where X-wing. That's true. That's makes. Man, what was the name of that game? It wasn't Academy. No, it wasn't X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. Let me say Sierra video game Star Wars. Let's see here. No, this is just a list of every single game that they made. Maybe it's Rogue Squadron. Oh man. Or maybe it was LucasArts. I don't remember who made it. I don't think it was X-Wing. Man, I don't remember what game it was. I'd have to figure it out. I'd have to see I remember the first mission, right? You're flying a TI, you're flying through Beggar's Canyon. It's a training run. You're in the training fighter, right? I used to bullseye womp, I used to bullseye womp rats back in my whatever it was called. Oh, thank you, London. Appreciate you. I appreciate the droplets. The droplets add up. Important, especially, when I haven't streamed for 2 weeks. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Okay, Rogue Squadron. All right, everyone's saying it's Rogue Squadron. All right, I'll believe you. Rogue Squadron was 98. Let's see here. Yeah, all right. Yep. You start in the T-16 Skyhopper. Okay, yep. Only usable in Bega's Canyon. Okay, it is that one. Okay, that's the one. Rogue Squadron. That's the one. Rogue Squadron. Good work. Right, it was on N64 as well. Makes sense. I'll tell you what blew my mind. I was looking up the release dates of the Final Fantasy games. Now, I played Final Fantasy 1, and that was on the Nintendo Entertainment System. And I remember feeling like the time between Final Fantasy 1 and Final Fantasy 2, right, which was actually Final Fantasy 4, but it was the second game released in the US, so they called it Final Fantasy 2. And that's the one with, Kain and Cecil and Rosa and Rydia. It's one of those things when you're a kid, it's like forever. Final Fantasy was released for the NES in America in 1990, which checks out. I was about 8 or 9 years old. Final Fantasy 2, which again, Final Fantasy 4, which was here, Final Fantasy 2, was released in the Super Nintendo in 1991. Now, it was released late in the year 1991 versus early in the year 1990, but it was literally like 18 months later. That's crazy. Like, as a kid, I would have told you that the time difference, I would have told you right now, if I hadn't looked that up, I would have been like, oh, it was like 3 to 4 or 5 years or something between those games. It was not. It was not. And then, yeah, so they were busy. Final Fantasy 1 was released on the family computer in 1987. That's, from the actual original Japanese. It was released, Final Fantasy 2 was released in 1988. Final Fantasy 3 was released in 1990. And then Final Fantasy 4 was released in 1991. So there you go. One a year. Boobs. Yeah, that's it. Thanks, Testy Trekkie. Yeah, 8-bit. Well, no, okay. Time does speed up as you get older, but realistically, I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you how. Because sure, it was 8-bit, but back then, 8-bit was still challenging, right? 8-bit was still, especially because they had to do a lot of work to fit everything into the memory, and they had the restrictions of the palette. I mean, they did some really crazy, cool, awesome stuff. I watched a whole big article about how, like, the guys who made Prince of Persia basically had to, like, hack the Matrix in order to get their game to work, right? So the tech was the tech. The difference is that the scope of these games was just shorter and easier and simpler, and they didn't have 7,000 pages of dialogue, and they didn't have 8 trillion different unique or distinct items, and they knew that another game was coming out in a year, so move on to the next one. And I don't know, it's the same problem I have with everything, but it's the same problem I have with, like, TV shows, which I don't watch anymore. But part of the reason I don't watch TV shows anymore is because I don't want to watch a show and wait 5 years to get a season, which is 6 episodes, and they release it all at once, and people sit there and they binge watch it, and they watch, they take a day, half a day, they watch 6 episodes, and that's what you're going to get for the next 5 years. That seems like a horrific experience to me, and I have no interest in engaging in that form of entertainment. And you know what? I watched the first season of Wheel of Time. Now, Wheel of Time doesn't exactly count because obviously I read the books and I kind of knew what was going on, but it was cool. And they made changes, and I didn't love them, but I didn't hate them either. But I ended up kind of falling off with it. I thought the ending was kind of bad and rushed. But it's a good thing. Imagine if you got into that show and you watch it, and then apparently season 3 was actually quite good. I do mean to watch it sometime. And I can only do that because I know how it ends because it was a book. But yeah, it got canceled and whatever, And why should it get canceled? In the time that it takes for a season and the second season to come out, right? So like you get season 2 or season 1, and then season 2 drops 4 or 5 years later. In that time, entire shows used to have their entire run. And by the way, that run, 22 episodes, 23 episodes, 24 episodes. And so now, even when a show comes out, you have such high expectations on every single episode because you've been waiting 4 or 5 years for it. You only have 6 episodes in order to tell their story and develop their characters. I have no stomach for it. And so when I hear about these people who are like, oh, we've been working on this video game for 9.5 years. We've invested $350 million or whatever into this game. That is not a good thing for me. That's actually something that's going to make me not want to get engaged with that game. So, in fact, dare I say, maybe I'm a little nervous to see how this Stone Top gets first look tomorrow, because this person's been working on this game since it was a 4th edition campaign. So that's a long time, folks. That's over 10 years. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really cool. The old hacks and the old tricks and stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely. We don't have space and time for a really cool introductory, so we just put it in the book and we put some art in there, and we tell you the backstory in the book. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. We're very spoiled, in that respect. I say that more as a data scientist. I think about the people who used to have to actually figure out this stuff, numerically and solve it numerically, as opposed to solving it through, Monte Carlo and just throw infinite processing power at it. No, you actually had to solve for a function because there was no other option. You couldn't just try every permutation, every combination until you find the one that best fits, which is the modern day method of data science. Correct, Jams. They were also happy to make a game, sell it to you, complete with no options for patches or updates, no DLC. You got the game, you owned it, it was yours, you owned it forever, and the experience was bottled in that cartridge or that disc, and that was the end of it. And it wasn't about the recurring revenue of 10 years of DLC and item packs and all this other stuff, I mean, that sounds honestly perfect to me. So I haven't really engaged in any television, but it sounds like the South Koreans know how to do it. So. That's an awesome little tidbit. EQ was in 16-bit, and so the highest that they could get was 32,000. So that's why the monsters had that low of amount of hit points, and they just had massive regen in order to make up for it. I love it. Absolutely. I mean, it again, I know technology advances, and I know that, whatever, all this other stuff. But it is crazy to me right now that Chrome Chrome is currently using 5.9 gigabytes of RAM on my computer. You know, like it's a web browser, you know. But yeah, I mean, and I get it. I mean, I'm just, you know, again, we're talking about coming from the days of, you know, our Commodores and our Amigas and all this other stuff. But again, I totally get that the graphics have improved. So here's the deal. For me, the graphics have improved, and the stories have gotten a lot more deep and complex. But none of that really makes it a better game for me. Now, playability and usability is very important. And that's why, like, for me personally, the sweet spot of all systems is the Super Nintendo. I think that, like, I really think, you know, obviously I had a lot of PlayStation games, but I think PlayStation represents an era where, like, you know, they had this like 3D polygon technology, but it was oftentimes very clunky, and it was difficult sometimes to see what was going on. And like, it was not always, it was kind of muddled. It was kind of, you know, Super Nintendo for me is so maximally playable, in terms of being like it's limited, but it's so good in that limitation. You know, again, I just remember that, you know, as games got more complex, they also got more awkward and weird. And, you know, like, I just remember, like, an example being like earlier. I mean, like, Super Mario World, I think, is still one of the best games of all time. I mean, like, you watch people, right? They play those like Super Mario World challenge, right? Like, there's that level builder. And then what do they use? They use Super Mario World, right? But like, I remember, like, you know, like the early 3D games, you know, where your camera would like clip into a wall and you couldn't even see your character to make a jump because the camera was in an ass position. And, you know, it's like, okay, cool. The game looks better, but now I'm got to fucking manage my camera. Like, that's the type of thing that maybe other people didn't think it was a big deal. But for me, it started to get me less and less and less interested in gaming and video gaming. It became a hassle. I didn't want to manage, you know, the camera, right? I just wanted to, you know, have Mario run and jump and step on, you know, Koopas and Goombas. So I will say that PS2 was a very nice system, you know. Xbox 360 is also a very nice system. I thought some of the 360 games were really, really great. That was one of my favorite consoles, actually, was the Xbox 360. I thought it was a great, I loved the controller. I liked the Xbox Live service was nice. Like, they had some great games that you could buy for cheap and download, and just had some great titles, and it was a great system. Yeah. And it was kind of internet, but also it was, you know, kind of not, you know. So, yeah, right. Exactly, James. The connectivity was so that, you know, for playing, not for like making money. You know, it felt like it was for connecting people and connecting you to other gamers. And that was cool, you know. I never had a 360 die on me. In fact, I had one 360 the entire run of 360. Also, randomly, for whatever, you know, call it what you want. Technically, it started with the PS2. It did technically start with the PS2, but with one game, but which was DDR Max. But there were 3 or 4 games that I had for the 360, which was the DDR Max Universe. DDR Max Universe 1, Universe 2, Universe 3, and there may have been a Universe 4. And I used to play a lot of DDR. And the first time I lost a lot of weight, like when I was like a really big boy, like 330 or something like that. The first time I lost weight and got all the way down to like 200, 190. A lot of it was from playing a lot of DDR. I had my own apartment, my own house, and I just used to, play DDR all the time. And I did that on the 360 mostly. So I have this kind of soft spot in my heart for the 360 for that reason. And obviously, PS1. Well, there's another thing too about the PS2. Like, I think it was a great system, but like PS1 was Final Fantasy VII, which is up there for my goat. 8, which I don't really particularly love, if I'm being honest with you. And then had Final Fantasy 9, which I thought was amazing, right? And then very quickly, right, 9 got buried because the PS2 came out and 10 came out, and I hated 10. And I thought 12 was okay, but I never beat it. And then it was already onto the Final Fantasy 13, which was on the PS3, and I never got a PS3, so I never got to play it. So that was the last Final Fantasy. So, for me, the fact that PS1 had 7 and 9, and then the 2 went straight into 10, and I didn't like 10, like that was a big deal for me, right? Like Final Fantasy was, well, Cinnabus says, wait, you lost weight playing video games? Derek in Bizarro World is back. Yes, a lot. I played a lot of DDR. When I first moved into this condo, which would have been, so it would have been 2008. 2008, yeah. So I was, 2008. It's either 2007 or 2008. I don't remember what year it was, but anyways, so I would have been like 25. And so I used to play all the time. And the house across the street from me, the woman who owned it had left, who moved in or something. And her daughter, she gave it to her daughter, who is a little younger than me. She was like pretty young, and she lived there with her friend. And they used to, like, when they would ever see me, they'd be like, they kind of like make fun of me, because they'd not like make fun in a mean way, but they were kind of like, you were going at it last night, Did you have bad knees? Might explain the bad knees. No. If I do have bad knees, that came from running. That's true. PS2 is also backwards compatible. I will say though, my PlayStation 2, I did have problems with the it wasn't quite like NES, like blowing a cartridge, but I never felt like the PS2 was as reliable as the PS1. The PS1 felt like a tank, like the original gray, top flip box. But the PS2, I felt like the reader was weaker. I don't know why. I just felt like it never worked as well. Yeah, almost 20 years, Keith. Coming up on it. 18 years, give or take. Nintendo DS was an amazing system. I started with the Game Boy Advance SP. So I never actually had a GBA. I never had a Game Boy Advance. I had a Game Boy Advance SP, which I think was if not the best mobile handheld game device of all time. I don't know. It had to be close. Like the Game Boy Advance SP, I think was like peak design. And then they came out with the DS, but the DS was backwards compatible. So, you had in fact, it was not only was it backwards compatible, right? You could have 2 games in it, right? You could Eiffel Tower, the thing. So I used to have a DS game in there, right? And then I would have a GBA game in there. And that, and it was still fairly, compact. And it was nice to take, but the SP was gold. That was amazing. What an amazing system. Hey, Dadon, thank you. Last Ark's crowdfunder is about to end any minute. Thanks for showing it off. Yeah, Dadon, it was awesome. Congrats. I think it's close to, when we did it, it was, like 120K or something. And now it's at 199,793. Come on. Just $200. Come on. Remember to use our affiliate link. Yeah, SP was awesome. SP was definitely peak. I love that. I had a black SP. It was like it had like the NES aesthetic. Oh, it was so good. Hey, thank you. Sorry, I have my sound turned off. There.
I am strong.
With 4 years of supporting the adventure, self-confessed cynic, thank you. Business Minute, how have your sponsored streams done for you, and how's the views on them? Great question. So as I said before, when I did the streams, those two companies reached out to me on behalf of so they were the publishing arm that was doing the publishing. They reached out to me and they said, hey, we like your channel. We'd love to work with you. And I said, yeah, here's the deal. And I had wanted to do that after learning at GaryCon. Just I think how bad the methodology was for most people and the way that it was set up and incentivized. And I told them, hey, look, I know most people are charging, $1,500 or $2,500 for a 60-second spot. Here's the deal I'll do for you. We can work out a deal at half of that or a quarter of that. And I will first look the game for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. But I'm going to be honest and candid. It's a live stream. It's a first reaction. So, if I'm completely not interested in the game, I would tell you no. But, there's something, the game seems cool. So I'm willing to take a look at it. But there may be things that I am critical about. To that end, if you have an affiliate link and you'd like to work with me, if I can't make you back your money, I'll pay you back whatever you pay me. I don't want to feel like I'm fucking you over because maybe there's something really bad about your game and it really turns a bunch of people off. I feel like I have an obligation to my audience to talk about that. I respect that you're putting, yourself out there. And everyone said, the two people, they said, that's great. That's fine. Both companies came back and said it was a slam dunk, incredible, amazing success. They would be super happy to work with me in the future. And, would definitely want to queue me up for, the next thing. So now neither of them wanted to share their conversion statistics with me. I didn't really push too hard, admittedly. But if they were bad, I think they would have told me otherwise. So, but no, they did not give me their exact numbers. Now, smarter people than me, other business people said, if they didn't tell me my numbers, it's because they were really good. That's what they told me basically. And they don't want me to think like I can, triple my cost, for my next stream. But overall, I think it did well. And I would love to be in a position to do, 1 to 2 of those a month, so yeah, that'd be cool. So overall, I was really happy with it. And, both games I thought legitimately were interesting. And I thought there was some really cool stuff. Going through Last Arcs was legitimately fun and cool and interesting. But now I am still a bad business person, which is to say I still don't even have something on my YouTube channel that says, if you're interested in blah, 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 reach out to me, I do, I don't have any of that. Stephen Glicker, Roll for Combat, was saying like, I need to put together like a package, with quotes from, people who in the comments section on Kickstarter or BackerKit, like, oh, saw you on Knights of the Last Call, backed immediately, or, some of the clips or quotes from some of our email exchanges, with it anonymized, saying like, oh, we were really happy with the way the, thing performed. Even if I don't have exact numbers, I can at least provide that sort of feedback to them. But, you know, so I do need to get myself, you know, put out there. So in terms of has anybody else reached out to us? Yeah, Glicker on it as usual. No. Again, we got that thing from the Diablo people. But again, I don't know if that was like an actual, they want to work with us or if they just want to send us a quick start. But yeah. So we'll see. But I'm going to reach out to them. They messaged me on Friday, so I just need to get back to them. But the art looks fire. I know that they've got like minis or something. I think you should ask your community for help on that. I'm sure there are people that could put at least a bare bone one together for you. Oh, share the pudding. I never do that stuff. As much as possible, share the pudding. I avoid any or all parasocialism in all of my interactions. I try to, if someone is doing something for me, I typically try to compensate them or do something for them, but I never try to get my community to do anything. In fact, usually I have to tell my community to not do something. Keith, can I do a Symbaroum first look? Well, Keith, we do have a first look queue. And unfortunately, the first look queue is pretty full right now. So we got to do Stone Top, and then we got to do Wicked Ones. We got to do Pico, Fiasco, His Majesty the Worm, Middle Earth role-playing game, as in, yes, the one that's almost 40 years old. Burning Wheel, Heroic Deeds 5th edition version once it releases. Uncharted Worlds, Index Card RPG, Cryptomancer, Blade 68, Infinite Revolutions, Cyborg, the Furby indie game, thanks Jess Redicott, Ars Magica, the definitive edition, Exalted Essence, and then there's ones that were on there from Legacy, but those ones can technically be co-opted. But all those ones I just said were put and paid for. Yes, Goldacat did go through with bribe. Yes, correct. Fiasco added, by the way, by Shoefix. Yeah, we got Merp on there for sure. I was looking at some Merp stuff just the other day. Let me see if I can bring it up here. Now these are all super old school. What handsome genius suggested games I like? Gee, I don't know, Zen Bullet. Maybe you have 2 or 3 games on there. I don't remember. That was a cash bribe. Testy. That was a cash bribe. That wasn't tickets. That was during a stream, and it was a joke, and it was one of those things that classic KLC, right? We took things too far, and it got out of pocket real quickly, that kind of thing. Fiasco, first edition, that's a very important part. Second edition, trash. First edition, great. TTRPG, it's very good. I've always had banger successes with Fiasco. But yeah, ignore the last arc stuff here. Well, now that it's over, we can. Blue. There we go. But yeah, we got this bad boy. We got this bad boy queued up. And that. Sexy, isn't it? This is second edition. I don't think I could find the original edition, but I think a lot of people consider that this is the definitive edition, second edition. Oh yeah. I know Tiny D6. Bob loves Bob has a couple of the Tiny D6 games. Yeah, Bob definitely does it. Oh, Angus McBride has some amazing pieces of art. I have one. Let me see if I can bring it up here real quick. Is it? Yeah, this one. Oh, it's very reminiscent of its era and its auras. Oh, Easy D6 is also very good too. Oh yeah, this is it. Look at this. I mean, that just looks like, that is so like, you know, Elric of Melnibone. It's so like classic late 80s, early 90s, you know. I love it. Love it. There we go. 1994. Anyways. Right. Yeah, there's nothing super heroic. No, you're absolutely right. Share the pudding. Like this, I mean, sure, this, you know, he's got his breastplate on, you know. But, you know, there's nothing super heroic about it. I mean, to be clear, you know, this is exactly what I love about the One Ring, you know, which is, you know, the characters, you know, I mean, they're not super heroic in any stretch of the matter, you know, very grounded, you know, very, very grounded. Again, I have those Chessex Vortex green dice. I have those in the mega size, the big ones. Yeah. Free League Elric game is coming. Elric games coming all over the place, right? They're coming to Dungeon Crawl Classics, and they're coming to Free League, and it's going to be a Dragonbane game, which is interesting. I wonder if they're going to change anything about it, or if they're just going to, you know, just run it back. But oh yeah, apparently what I heard is that, and this is a rumor, I don't know if this is true, but that there was the license was tied up in legal problem, or like Chaosium had it or something, and that expired. And Michael Moorcock is still alive. And so apparently once that issue, yeah, there you go. So something about the license, and it fell apart. So now it's kind of open season. And so now it's getting licensed out to everybody. So apparently later this year will be the year of Elric. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I've read the novels, or at least a couple of them. It's okay. I mean, it's not, he's kind of, you know, he's a moody anti-hero. You know, there's definitely a vibe there. Like, I was never like the moody tiefling warlock in the corner type person, you know. I liked Cyclops. You know, I liked Cyclops. I didn't like Wolverine. You know what I mean? That's me, you know. So it was very psychedelic, you know. It had a little bit of that acid trippy 60s, you know, kind of edge to it. Wolverine sucks. I'm sorry. Like, that he's so boring. He can't even, like, he's got 1 foot long knives attached to his feet, you know, to his hands. I'm sorry. Like, compare that to like any other X-Men. He just sucks. Like, sure, I mean, I would definitely rather be some crazy Omega level mutant, you know, like, you know, Storm or Iceman or something like that. But at least Cyclops, you know, like, all right, imagine you're playing a superhero game. Okay. You're playing a superhero game, and you know, the earthquakes or whatever. And the GM describes that a building is collapsing, you know, and then like, what, you know, there's a school bus full of kids and the building's collapsing, and they're like, what do you do, Wolverine? And you're like, fucking bub, I don't know. You know, like, you do nothing. You watch the people die, you know, like, you can't do anything. Also, dude is always trying to literally bang and hook up with everybody else's woman. He's a piece of shit. I completely agree with you there. But the healing factor. Yeah, the other thing about Wolverine is Other people don't need a healing factor because they don't get fucking killed all the time. You know, maybe if Wolverine didn't suck, he wouldn't need a healing factor. Like, does Storm need a healing factor? So. Also, the healing factor has gotten, like, tied to, like, escalated to, like, 27 trillion, you know, over the years. Because they had to make Wolverine not suck, you know? Yeah, Wolverine sucks. Yeah, right. His power is an extra foot of reach. Like, Jubilee has a better power than Wolverine. Like, it's also Wolverine's like, because like, please, the whole like, oh, his mutant power is healing factor and bone claws. Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, they completely retconned that bone claw thing. I own the episode. I own the issue. Okay, the comic book issue, the one where Magneto rips off Wolverine's adamantium skeleton. Okay, it's called Fatal Attractions. That's the name of the issue. It's called Fatal Attractions, and you know, they had to make up all sorts of bullshit about his bone spurs. He sucks. He's terrible. Magneto, I can get behind Magneto. Oh, with the yes. Steam, it knows his shit with the holographic card still attached. 100% Steam driven. Oh yeah. There we go. Like, we're talking about Fatal Attraction. See, like we got some people who know their shit. They're either worth 5 cents or $5,000. My favorite thing about Storm is that Storm is a mutant. So at no point in time, like, all of her like spell casting and like prophesizing is just purely for vibes. You know, like, she doesn't have to be like, torrential rains from the Arctic Circle storm down upon my enemy. No, none of that has to happen. She could just make it rain, you know, and throw lightning bolts. But she just decides to be that extra. And you know what? She can get away with it because she's Storm. I mean, Cyclops, Havoc, they're kind of, you know, two sides of the same coin, you know. Magneto, not a bad power set to have. Am I Team Gambit? I mean, Gambit's better than Wolverine, but Gambit to me is one of those, you know, edgy new era X-Men that was introduced, like, you know, in the 90s, you know, to be a cool kid. And I don't really care that much about him, honestly. I mean, I don't dislike him, but he's not particularly, you know, I know that they kind of like, you know, like as they always do, you know, they made his powers like he can kinetically charge anything. He can kinetically charge himself. You know, it's not just the playing cards or whatever, but probably not. I don't know that I know anything about financial advice, and I certainly would be the worst person to ask, considering I have managed a number of failed businesses and routinely make poor decisions. So yeah, I wouldn't do it if I were you. Because generally my advice would be, you know, buy the $5,000 camera. So like, that's not really great advice. True. Yeah. I mean, again, she's just doing vibes. Hey, 200K. There we go. Yeah. So, yeah. Maybe don't ask the person who was, you know, laid off and now struggle buses on a super niche RPG YouTube channel for advice. Again, I it's one thing for me to give people RPG advice. It's another thing for me to give, you know. Nightcrawler was cool. Nightcrawler, very, very good power set. Now, Rogue is a bit tricky because you have to distinguish between Rogue and Rogue with permanently absorbed Miss Marvel powers, right? Because Rogue by herself, interesting, cool, neat, but that's Anna Paquin movie Rogue. Rogue, green and yellow with the little leather jacket with flying, super strength, and invulnerability escalate, Fair enough. She is a down south. She is a southern gal. I mean, it goes so hard. I mean, it's one of the hardest intros of all time. Especially when the violins come in. Well, I'm trying to get people who are willing to donate so that I can get a car. So advice on how to get that to be successful. Well, my solution has usually been to set up a situation where people will know that the money will cause you to have to do something that you absolutely hate every minute of. And then you are sure to get all of the money that you need almost instantaneously, because as much as people want to help you, they really want to see you suffer more, and they're willing to pay for that. So that historically has worked very well for me in this space. But outside of that space, I'm not really that sure. But again, it's my situation is a little bit different, because I have a YouTube channel and all that other stuff. In the Invincible game, I'm playing an invisible healer with barrier powers and teleportation. That feels like kind of a grab bag of powers and characters, abilities, but I'm sure you can make it work. Oh, original Pokemon goes hard too, for sure. So, I would agree. Here's the thing with the Fantastic Four that is fundamentally different, which is, they don't have, with the exception of the Thing, right? They don't have any problems. They are public. They are out. They don't. So like a lot of the things that make superheroes interesting are that they have these secret identities, and they have these, in the case of the X-Men, right? They're persecuted. They're mutants, right? The Fantastic Four just kind of like are, just everything's great, like in the comics, it's like they're rich, they're successful, they're beautiful, they're beloved, they're out, they're public faces, you know what I mean? They're just like, they're very classic, in that respect. Yeah, I mean, it almost, it's not quite Golden Age comics, but it's very Silver Age comics, right? It's very Silver Age. And I think a lot of people, get more interested in sort of the Bronze Age comics, because the Bronze Age comics introduced, most notably like the X-Men and like these characters who have these kind of, they're kind of on the outs, and they're not, you know what I mean? Like there's, but point is like the Fantastic Four are a little boring. I will completely agree with that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, obviously, if there's people that you feel comfortable sharing a link with, I wouldn't tell you not to, but, just realize that ultimately people are there to, talk about TTRPGs. So, King Arthur and the Knights of Justice is still number one. That is fantastic. And in fact, I never really collected them. You know, I collected a lot of Marvel. I collected DC. I mean, let me rephrase. I really collected Superman. I never really liked the Flash, and I never really liked Batman, but I like Superman. Okay. Do I like anybody else from DC? No, not really. It was FBT the stream. Yeah, Cineboss. It was just me, streaming for an hour or two just to, get back into it. Because believe it or not, if you just start streaming and you start doing like 10, 20, 30 hours or whatever of talking a week, it can get pretty brutal on your voice. And so I really haven't talked much. Obviously, I'm recovering from laryngitis, but I just wanted to kind of start warming my voice back up. So just came on and hung out. But I'm actually probably going to dip out here. I wanted to go about 2 hours, and we're about 2 hours. So that works perfect. I don't want to overdo it, I don't want to overdo it. Oh, awesome. Well, this was fun. Always enjoy shooting the shit with you guys. Iron Man. Iron Man's cool. I mean, there's elements of Iron Man. I've said this before. The Marvel did they did a reboot called the Ultimate series back in this is about 20 years ago, give or take, mid 2000s. They did the Ultimate X-Men. There was a thing called the Ultimates, which was just basically Ultimate Adventures. There was Ultimate Spider-Man. There was Ultimate X-Men. There was Ultimates, which is basically, again, Ultimate Adventures. There was a lot of and it was so cool, such good modern storytelling, and I thought it was great. Now, what I was going to say is I didn't read Ultimate Iron Man, but I do love that stuff. And it's only been 2 hours, yeah. Hey, spoiler alerts. Anyways, it's 20 years old. It's fine. All right, everybody. I am going to go. I'm going to be back tonight, tomorrow, however you want to view it. That is true. It was cool until they shit all over it. They did shit all over it. They did shit all over it. Or they did shit all over it. That's true. But I'll be back, and we're going to be talking Stone Top. So it's a first look in that, yeah, I mean, it is a first look, really. I don't think I've really paid attention to anything with the development of the game for at least over 5 years. So, almost like before KLC was even a channel, And, that is what I was trying to say. Ultimate Fantastic Four was the best Fantastic Four. That's what I was ultimately trying to get to. So thank you, Steam Driven. I didn't even make that point, but you made that point. That's actually the point I wanted to make. So I'm saying Ultimate Series was cool, but one of the cool things they did was actually make the Fantastic Four kind of cool by making them a little bit more human and a little bit more interesting. So, alrighty, folks, I will catch you later. We're going to be talking Stone Deep and then other stuff. There's a bunch of stuff I want to do now that I'm better. And again, I got some cons coming up this summer, but I'm hoping to get some games recorded. Hopefully some of our patrons are interested in allowing some recording or at least some streaming. There's going to be different options, and again, they might be restricted to just our patrons, but hey, that's a cool benefit for being a member of our Patreon. Appreciate your support. It's pretty awesome. It does suck, because if I'm sick and I can't work, I don't make any money like I used to when I had, PTO. But it's pretty cool to have a community like this, like you, who can support me and my endeavors, and and we can share in this love of our hobby together, and that you're willing to chip in a couple of bucks, or even $20-$30 a month or whatever, is really, really awesome, and I really appreciate you for doing that, because it makes this community happen. Sort of. Kind of. I mean, as I said before, when I don't stream for 2 weeks, my cancellations My average weekly cancellations usually increase by 25 to 50%. My new patron intake usually drops by 50% or more. So, if I don't stream, people leave and people stop joining. So it does happen pretty quickly. So I don't know exactly what the exact turnover is, but I don't have full control over all that. But point is, it's not literally free in that respect. That's one of the reasons why I spend so much time on my Discord, chatting with my community and being part of the community, honestly, and learning from them and sharing with them, because it makes us all on this fun journey together. All right, folks, I will see you tomorrow evening. Until next time, peace out. Enjoy your day or your night or whatever time zone it is. If you're catching the VOD, hopefully you catch us tomorrow night with Stone Top. It's going to be a popular topic because of Quinn's. And that is going to be happening next time on Nights of Last Call. Peace.